All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
Welcome back to the Loose Wheel Show, Season 3, Episode 9. I'm Andrew Hazlett. Ethan Ignatowski, not here today. He's in Kansas City for covering the women's basketball tournament for ASU. Instead, in Ethan's chair is Morgan Tremmel, the known guy that comes on the show most often. And also joining us is Eric List of Fuel for Thought.
What's up?
We're going to have a fun show this week, and let's just get it right into the reviews.
And now for last week's race reviews.
Circuit of the Americas, NASCAR. Connor Zilisch won Xfinity to no one's surprise.
Yeah.
Everyone picked him last week. I did. Ethan did. Guests did as well.
Me.
Yes. Good job, Morgan. And then, yeah, so to no one's surprise, talented kid that we've talked about ad nauseum on this show. In Cup Series, start off, Reddick led from pole. And then Ross Chastain had a vintage Ross Chastain moment, I would say, spinning Chase Elliott on the start. But that was not the worst incident that happened all week long, because shortly thereafter, Austin Cindric spun Ty Dillon into the 38. Right rear hooked them on the straightaway, on the start-finish straightaway. And Austin Cindric, you get the... Where did I put it?
It's right
over there.
Yeah.
The chicken award for this week of just right rear hooking a guy. We'll see if NASCAR actually decides to suspend him. This is being recorded on Tuesday. They're going to release the penalty report Wednesday, so we'll see if they actually do anything. I think the right call here, even though it's not really consistent with what NASCAR's done in the past, because I feel it's a road course, it should vary a little bit. Instead of the full suspension, I think it should be a point deduction of like 5-10 points, something minuscule but enough to improve the point. Like I said, it was a road course, so it's not as bad. You aren't going, instead of 150 something miles an hour or something around that on like an intermediate where we saw Wallace dump Larson and Elliott dump Hamlin. This is slower speed track. So that's kind of my thoughts. I want to get your guys' thoughts on that.
I don't think they're going to suspend him. I don't think they have the guts to it. I think they say, yes, we'll suspend you. We'll take away all your playoff points. I don't think they fully have the guts to go and do off something like that. I think if it was completely blatant and oblivious... Honestly, I disagree. I think road course or not, if it's blatant or oblivious, I think they would do it. I think you're right. They were still going fast, but like it wasn't mile and a half fast. It wasn't. You can look at it and say, okay, there's a shadow of a doubt that it maybe wasn't intentional, whether it was or not. It's not like just completely button hooking right. So I think you're right. I think it's just a points penalty. I don't think they're gonna suspend him. I don't want to say it's not suspension worthy, because if you want to be consistent, anytime you right hook someone, you should suspend them, because that's what it's been before. So if you're going to stick with the narrative, if you're going to stick with the rhetoric that it's been, then you should suspend him. I just don't think they're going to.
I'm also on the I don't think they're going to. I don't, like Eric said, I don't think they have the guts. Should he? That's debatable. I think, for consistency's sake, he should be. But I don't think they're going to. And, I like the point that you brought up about, it being a road course and having maybe point deductions. And it brings up a bigger talking point that you've heard me talk about this, is that, and you've talked about it too, is that road courses are inherently different than every other type of race we see in NASCAR. And I think maybe there should be more specific road course rules to make it, seem more fair. And whether they see that as, changing up the formula too much, I don't really care. I think that, if it's going to result in a better product, I think that changing up some of the rules is a good idea.
Yeah, like I know I've discussed it, and well, I think we're going to discuss it later about stages on road courses, but we'll get into that later here. As moving further down the race, Noah Gragson had to spin. He wound up recovering that, finishing in the top 10, was running in the top 5 late in the race at one point. So he had a surprisingly good run for just a guy who's not known for road course racing. Then you had the whole field pretty much pitted except for Wallace and Logano, with Wallace winning stage 1, getting the playoff point there. That's much important for I would assume he's going to be a borderline playoff driver, those 10 points, and possibly that playoff point could be huge later down the road. But something I do want to talk about is that I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel for the road course racing, the stages just interrupt the strategy so much. I think we saw it here today, here at COTA on Sunday, and it just kind of interrupted the flow of the race. Just it made the strategies way too unnatural.
I didn't mind them. I thought, because the one time NASCAR tried not having the stages at COTA, I thought it was kind of boring. I didn't think there was really a lot. I understand the strategy part of it. I didn't mind the strategy because I think in a way the stages just forced you to take a new strategy, because you saw guys that maybe didn't have a good car. Their strategy was, okay, hey, we're gonna strat, we're gonna get playoff points. Where you saw the guys like Busch, SVG, so on and so forth, that had good cars, decided to pit and said, hey, we're gonna pit. We'll take a little bit of drop in the stage points and maybe finish 4th, 5th on back instead of winning that playoff point. But we can set ourselves up better for the end of the race instead of we're gonna get that stage point and then finish 15th at the end of the day. But I see your opinion too.
I think I am somewhere in the middle of, I think it could create some more interesting strategies if they get rid of the stages for road courses. I think it could be fun for a race like Chicago. I think that'd be really interesting. COTA, I agree. When I watched back that COTA race, and it was a little bit more boring. But sometimes races are just more boring than others, and we can't direct that at stages, but possibly. But I do think that it's somewhat interesting to see, what guys think they have a shot at, at getting in the top 10 and, maybe even winning the thing, versus guys who, really need the stage points and want the stage point, and the balance of those teams trying to decide where they stand. And I think that's an interesting thing that happens. So I'm for either way, honestly. I think both could be valid ways of approach.
I think if you're going to get rid of stages, just get rid of stage and everything and go back to racing. Hey, we're going lap 1 to lap 312. There you go. Don't do this, on ovals we'll have stages, but on a road course we're not going to. Either go full stages or fully not.
I'm in the no stages boat.
I think I would be too.
I think stages kind of interrupt the flow. I think, and NASCAR, don't kill me, but I think they do it a lot so they can get an extra ad break in there. And I don't want to say, they have their reasons, but I feel like no stage racing is just more fun to watch than stage racing. And sure, it gets some guys some extra points, but if you really want those points, you should be, racing to the very end and wanting those very end points, in my opinion.
Moving further up the race, you had SVG and Kyle Busch led. You had Eric's favorite driver, fist pump, and then Kyle Larson had a loose wheel, which is the name of the
Very
show.
Very happy about that.
So that's that was certainly a moment where he just had a whole bad pit stop because the left side of his
he did.
The left side of the car took a long time to get that serviced. So just a poor pit stop for them that kind of ruined their race. Where a couple laps down that I don't know. I think they were able to get back to the lead lap, but that put a damper in their day, as I thought they'd be a good threat to win.
I remember I texted we have an Instagram group chat, some of us, and I all caps loose wheel, and I did not say it was because I'm a good friend, but I was very excited when I saw loose wheel. That's just unfortunate. Bad pit stop. Then you have your loose wheel. I do believe that you're right that they were able to get back on the lead lap, but I think it did ruin their day for them, and they had a pretty good shot at doing some damage if that didn't happen.
He just wanted a free show plug. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah,
He's like, I want to be on the loose wheel show. I want to make my name known. We're going to have a loose wheel. And that's what we did. And now Kyle Larson is a household name in the loose wheel show.
Yeah, I mean,
whether you want it to be or not.
Jim Tremmel, my father, knows who Kyle Larson is.
Exactly.
And that is a great thing.
There you go. Exactly. It's the little things in life.
Moving forward, a similar thing happened in stage 2, where some green flag pit stops, except for it wound up being Priest, Blaney, and McDowell, and I believe it wound up being Priest that won the stage. I didn't say this in my notes. And stage 3, you had McDowell stay out. I kind of on a weird strategy. I don't know what they were trying to do there. It didn't quite work out for them. And then Kyle Busch re-inherited the lead. And then you had a spin from Daniel Suarez, kind of got into the grass in the penultimate turn. I think they call it 19 if my memory serves me right.
Yeah.
And then he spun, and then in the melee, Connor Zilic crashed into Suarez, taking out half the Trackhouse cars and ending what was a highly anticipated debut for Connor Zilic short.
It really sucked for him because he got caught early in the race and he was brought back. But he was making his way through the midfield. He was going up strong, and really, if he kept on pace, he had a good chance at the top 10. I would say pretty solid chance there, and that would have been really exciting to see in his Cup debut. Zilic top 10 would have been crazy, but
I think it would have been great. I think he was running really well, and it was just a tough situation. But I guess we talked about this earlier on Fuel for Thought, and one of the things, I mean, you look back, Jimmy Johnson was last on his first race. Kyle Busch last on his first Cup race. There are these big name guys who didn't do well in their first Cup race, and then 2-time champion, 7-time champion. So hey, he's not in bad company.
He raced well. I looked back at the race a little bit, and I tried to find some Zilic clips, and he was, one thing that everybody in NASCAR likes to highlight, and we like to highlight, is how professional and how serious he looks at just 18 years old. And I think the professionalism really shined through here. Got caught in a bad situation, and he made the most of it. And when he crashed, he had a very calm interview. And that was great for him. I think he did what he's supposed to do. He drove through the midfield in a great job, and it's really impressive on his end for him to be able to make that kind of movement. And honestly, that's my biggest takeaway from Zilic's run in the Cup, was that he was, not shockingly, but very professional. And I think he has an amazing career to come, but I think he has an absolutely sensational career to come. And I hope we get to see him in a Cup race sooner rather than later.
I think we will. Yeah, Morgan, I think we will. Is that we're going to have Ethan call in soon. So when we get done after this, Ethan, if you're listening, we'll call in. But yeah, like you said, I'm Morgan. And then Kyle Busch led. Alex Bowman had a spin. I think he had a decent recovery. And then green flag pit stops, nothing really happened there. Kyle Busch led. And then Denny Hamlin, when he pulled out a line, hit Austin Dillon, spun. That I believe got a. I don't think it did have a caution.
No, I don't think so either.
That was just an interesting incident when he just pulled out a line. He hit just a bunch of dirty tracking, just couldn't brake. That's
well, that didn't bring out the caution because Kyle Busch had pitted, and then 2 laps later, Christopher Bell had pitted, and he had like a 5-second lead, but that was the caution.
Yeah.
That got them back together.
I do think, and
if my memory serves me right, at least.
What I do, and this is one of the things I do really enjoy about road courses, specifically COTA, is that they're less hesitant with the caution, which I like. I think if there's an opportunity for them to keep the green flag out, you should keep the green flag out.
Yeah.
And road courses really allow for that, and that's always fun.
And then Kyle Busch led. Then you had a couple of Joe Gibbs guys who aren't doing well this season. Ty Gibbs and Morgan's a Ty Gibbs fan. I don't know why, but
You are.
yeah, and then,
He's gonna get a win.
Yeah,
He'll take off.
He'll get a win at Pocono. Don't worry.
Yeah, and then Briscoe spun him, and then I don't think that brought out caution, but then you had Larson have another spin, and then you had just an insane battle between Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, a couple other guys arrived on the scene, William Byron,
It's a great battle.
and just they had a 4 wide moment in one of those corners. Just an insane battle near the end. Christopher Bell eventually did go on to pass Busch and win. Personally, I'd give the race a 7 out of 10. I don't know about you guys.
I thought it was great. I would give it like an 8.5. I thought the battle for that last 20 laps was phenomenal. Despite being someone who was grown up a Kyle Busch fan, I loved it. I thought it was great. Of course, upset with the ending, but I thought it was great. It sucked for Kyle, but Bell had the better pit strategy. He ran him down. He beat him clean. I mean, Kyle said it. He's like, I was driving to block. I was driving poorly in the sense of like he was being stupid and trying to do everything to block it. And Bell had almost every right to try to dump him, and he didn't. He raced him clean. And I mean, you can argue if Bell did dump him, it would be 3 years in a row that Bell has dumped Busch at Coda. But they raced clean, and then as soon as they got by, you had Byron, you had Reddick get there. Heck, you even had Chase Elliott, who was making a run, was actually faster than the leader come the last like 5 or 6 laps. So I thought it was really good. I don't want to say I hated last year's Coda race. I was not a fan. I was a big fan of this year's.
I really liked it. I would give it around the 8 range. I really like what they did with the track. The changes to the track I think really helped. I think you had a bunch of good storylines going into. You had Zilich. You had Bell getting back-to-back wins. That's a great, storyline. You had a great battle. You had some, fun for the people who like, your little crashes. You had some crashes. You had everything you want in a NASCAR race. Could it have been better? Yes. But was it a NASCAR race that I watched all the way through and was happy with it? Absolutely.
Moving on to St. Petersburg, the other race, the IndyCar race. Scott McLaughlin led from pole, looked like he had a dominant car all day, but as often as in St. Pete, you had a lap 1 crash. This week's was Nolan Siegel checked up to just have other cars that were checking up, so he's checking up. And then Will Power didn't check up, got into the back of him. They crashed. Louis Foster in his debut race got caught up in the melee as well, ending their 3 races, putting those 3 drivers in a hole to start the year. Then McLaughlin led again, had a few rounds of green flag pit stops, and then near the end, that was Scott Dixon who took over the lead on a different strategy and wound up being the top dog in the race for a little bit. Then we had another round of green flag pit stops where Alex Palou jumped Dixon on a strategy call, and then was able to dominate. Joseph Newgarden gave him a little bit of a challenge near the end, with Stingray Robb being trying to stay on the lead lap, and then eventually falling off the lead lap. And then after they were to get around Robb, Palou just set sail again. Wound up being Dixon passing Newgarden for second for that final podium slot. 6 out of 10 race for me. Indy Next winner was Dennis Hauger. I feel like the big takeaway was the Fox broadcast, first race on Fox. I thought Will Buxton did fine as play-by-play. I liked how they did the starting lineup with actually taught the drivers introducing themselves. You didn't see that for IndyCar last year on NBC, and you don't see it on NASCAR for Fox, which I think is a great big W. A few other things I didn't love is that I didn't love the way they distinguished the primary and the alternate. Putting the P and the A on sometimes wasn't the greatest move. I liked what NASCAR or IndyCar on NBC did last year with the little diagram, a little triangle that was either black or red depending on what color tire they're on. And then I also didn't like I don't like the superhero graphics period across all Fox. I don't like that they had them for IndyCars. I was holding out since it was an IndyCar produced thing that it would be faces. We did not get faces, unfortunately. We got the cartoony superheroes that had Scott McLaughlin staring into your soul.
Can I get the chicken award just for broadcast?
We're gonna give. We have a new award, Eric.
Okay.
That
I'm
relatively
excited.
new.
Okay.
So
And this is the ARCA Breaks moment of the week,
Oh Lord.
and I'm gonna give it to the IndyCar graphics.
Okay.
Just because of
I
what
can-
are we? I just
So I have my
don't
own
like
opinion.
it.
I have my own opinions on the superhero things. I think it's fine for football. I think they do a lot of players dirty sometimes. Same thing with NASCAR. I think that in concept it could be a cool idea. Having drawings of people, and having talented artists do that, and I think it'd be cool. Unfortunately, they mess up a lot of them, and they look bad a lot of the time. I think it's one of those things where I think about it in concept, and I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. It can be a cool idea, but in execution, when I look back at it, I'm not the biggest fan, and I do agree. I wish they used picture. I'm not as big of a hater as you two. I don't think. I'm more just whatever with them. Would I rather see pictures? Sure. Would I? Am I losing it over it? No. Would I be upset if they did that to Yuki Tsunoda? Absolutely. So I can see where you guys are definitely coming from. And then one last thing on that. I thought Marcus Armstrong actually had a solid race before his unfortunate end of the race where he got
had
contact.
a retirement.
He raced strong. I think that's something to look at. But other than that, I picked the wrong Alexander. I picked the wrong Alex. Unfortunate job by me. I picked a Rossi. Should have gone safe and gone Pillow. But I thought it was a fine race. I don't like St. Petersburg necessarily as a race that much, but it's whatever. 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10.
Fair. I had it on the background. So I watched, but I was busy, so I don't really give a rating. Quickly on the graphics, I don't like the characters. I didn't hate the actual timing and scoring graphic though.
Me neither.
I didn't hate
was
that.
Fine.
I thought that was okay and was actually better and something I was like, okay, this would be kind of neat to see come over to NASCAR. The characters thing, I don't like because it makes, in my opinion, them look cartoony and it takes away from the realism. But that's it. I thought it was okay race. Like I said, I had it on, but I was doing some other work, so I didn't get to fully lock in and pay attention. I did laugh though when I saw a NASCAR ad on the broadcast. It's like, oh good, at least they're promoting it, but at the same time it felt like, here, we're going to promote NASCAR after we just bought IndyCar and we're putting all our money and really time and care into IndyCar, but here's our NASCAR ads. That felt ironic to
I
me.
think that goes into. I think I'll give that the Morgan Tremmel "I Hate You" award of Fox taking all their money and not splitting it at least in a semi-even way, of giving NASCAR the grace and the respect that it deserves. I don't think they're doing that. So Fox, you get the Morgan Tremmel "I Hate You" award. Just throwing that one out there.
And then my one final minor gripe with the graphics is that they rarely, or if at all, I don't know if they did display push to pass remaining in the race.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
a good
something
point.
that I know it's their first time, but they've got a few things to improve on, make better for next time when they go out to Thermal Club, which will be certainly one of the races of all time, because Thermal Club is. I have low hopes for that.
You're going for a 5 out of 10 at the tops.
All right, so we'll have Ethan call in hopefully soon, but we'll see if anything he has to say. But the
And now for the news.
good thing for IndyCar is that with the first Fox broadcast, that was a huge rating increase, and the most watched IndyCar race on network television outside the Indy 500 in 14 years.
That's
impressive.
great.
That's
amazing.
what IndyCar needs, a series who has been, I don't know if relegated is the word, but
I think it's the right word.
just definitely hindered by not
Yeah.
having any sort of promotion at all.
It's a very good series that, as somebody who had just started watching racing last year, my freshman year of college, I was the last thing I was into was IndyCar because I didn't know when the races were. They weren't advertised to me. I didn't get any graphics for anything. I got a bunch of stuff for F1. I got a bunch of stuff for NASCAR. IndyCar was kind of just there, and I knew the Indy 500 was cool, but other than
That's
that, I
one
had
race
nothing.
out of what? How many? I don't even. What is
16?
the
17.
17? Yeah.
Ethan's getting food right now, so he'll call in whenever. But
Okay.
yeah, we can continue our conversation here.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's great for them and I think it's a great series that more people should watch, and I'm happy for them.
And I will say part of the lack of promotion is on the series itself,
Yeah,
with
definitely.
not having a great social media
No,
presence.
it's
Yeah.
not.
I mean, if you look at the other big two, NASCAR and F1, social media is a huge part of their marketing.
So you want to speak of a really good social media presence this year?
So,
The NASCAR reels have been phenomenal.
yep.
Phenomenal.
They have been.
Whoever's editing and making those have been on point.
Yeah.
Everyone has been fire.
Yeah.
And then Connor Daly, he on the weekend he had a new number and a new sponsor with the 76 gas station brand. They came in, changed his number from 78 to 76. Very close. I know Hooncoast has always had recently they've had a history of their numbers being in the high 70s, so that's nothing new for them. But we'll see. Hopefully this is can be a full-time thing. I know they lost Polka Dot. They were trying to get that, but they wound up not. So this could be a huge deal for Daly. And I know they have some sort of presence on the AM Racing ARCA team with Cole Raz on
Yeah. I think
with
I've
that
seen
car now being numbered 76 in the 76 font from the gas station. So that's kind of cool. Maybe we'll see something further down the road here.
I think that'd be fun.
Moving on to the piece of NASCAR news this week, Katherine Legge making her Cup debut with Live Fast at Phoenix. This is really cool. I think Legge, talented racer. We've seen her in sports cars, IndyCar, Formula E, now NASCAR, just doing everything. Expectations for her to run all the laps and try to outrun Cody Ware because Live Fast, not a good rate, not as fast team on their name kind of deceiving there.
They lied to me.
Just try to not be the last car that finishes. So, and I think that's possible. I do think she could beat Cody Ware.
I think for not the only time, but this will be one of the rare times where the last place battle is going to be interesting, and you might want to watch it. I think it'll be fun. I love seeing new drivers, no matter where they go, try out new stuff. I think that's great for the sport as a whole and motorsports in general. Having people who have done multiple things. I've been a proponent. You've been a proponent of F1 potentially going to the Indy 500 in Indianapolis. I think that'd be cool. I think the more times that we can have F1 and IMSA and ARC and NASCAR and all that stuff interconnecting, the better for motorsports as a whole.
I think that's fair. I'm excited to see what she can do. I'm not expecting a whole heck of a lot, as you said. I mean, the car being Live Fast is very deceiving. It is anything but fast on anything that's not a super speedway, and then arguably it's still not super fast there, but it's run better. I think it's good. I think NASCAR needs a really good female driver. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be Katherine Legge. I think they've actually probably got better. And, well, at one point, Haley Deegan, but she's off in La La Land over in the IndyCar series.
Indy Next.
Doing nothing
not
in the
well.
Indy. And no disrespect to her. I I think NASCAR has a habit of probably rushing females a bit too much. I think JWC could be really good potentially. I forget the female that's in ARCA right now. That runs for Toyota.
Isabella Robusto.
Yeah, that runs for Toyota.
She runs up high in that series.
Yeah. So no, I'm excited for Katherine Legge. I think it's gonna be good. It'll bring eyes to the sport. I think it's gonna be too bad that she's probably not gonna do very well.
And it's probably not her fault. It's probably
Correct.
Car's fault.
Yeah.
So that always sucks is when you
And unfortunately, the casual fan will probably
Well,
not
yeah.
know that, and that's what's too bad.
Yeah. I think it's time for the previews now.
And now for next week's race previews.
The only driver change we just mentioned being Katherine Legge for the Cup Series. So time for me to give you my the 5 drivers to watch out for. I'm gonna go with all race winners here at Phoenix. You've got 4-time winner Joey Logano. Kyle Larson's won there in the past. Same thing with Christopher Bell and William Byron. Bell trying to go for 3 in a row, a feat that's only been done around 20 or so times in NASCAR. And this kind of sleeper pick here. Chase Briscoe, negative in points, won there in a Stewart-Haas racing car, which at the time was not Glory Stewart-Haas racing, kind of a fading Stewart-Haas racing car. He's got the talent. I think he could be a sleeper to watch. Toyota was great last year. At one point, had the top 6 cars, I want to say. Eric Jones was running well even. So Toyota can be good. And I'll go through the 4 guys I didn't 4 guys who have won races that I didn't put on. Hamlin, Chastain, Elliott, and Kyle Busch, who has won there twice. So on the Xfinity Series, couple drivers changing there. 07 for SS Greenlight, Nick Lights, his teammate in the 14, Garrett Smithley back in this week. 17 for Hendrick, Alex Bowman. 19 for Joe Gibbs Racing, Eric Almirola. The Joey Gase team is bringing Greg Van Alst in the 35, Joey Gase in his own car. 45 for Alpha Prime is Brad Perez. 74 for Mike Harmon. It will be Dawson Cram this week. And the 70 for Cope is Thomas Annunziata. So all that being said, also, I almost forgot one thing. We're going to bring the option tire this week to Phoenix.
Ooh.
So we'll have 2 tires. Might throw a wrench into some strategies. Will be interesting to see. I don't think either of us have seen an option tire race in person, so that's going to be interesting to see from being their perspective. What do you expect from that?
I don't know what to expect. I think it was really a breath of fresh air and something that was kind of fun at Richmond. I really hope it raced well because I've always liked Phoenix, always since kind of being young. I looked at Phoenix and I initially was like, oh, the dog leg's cool, it's unique, and I've always liked Phoenix, and it's just raced so poorly the past 4 years. That it's just been kind of hard to watch. The restarts are good for 15, 20 laps until it gets strung out, and then it's pretty much just single file racing, and maybe when they get into lap traffic, it gets kind of good and you get a little battle for the lead. It's not like there's even a lot of caution, so I'm hoping it makes the racing interesting. I almost feel like 2 tires isn't enough, and you should maybe go 3. But it's 312 laps. You don't usually you don't first pit stops end of stage 1. You usually pit once before the end of stage 2, and once or twice. So I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to watch. I think it'll be really interesting because it's a test to see is this a good tire to bring and run the entire time in Phoenix for the championship. So I think that's kind of the big takeaway is how does this tire run and what would the championship look like if it was ran on that tire.
I think it'll be fun to see. I don't know a whole ton, but I know that Phoenix has been a relatively boring race in my opinion for the last 2 times I've watched it. And I think adding anything to shake it up is a good thing to do because when a race is boring and a race not predictable, but when you see, whoever's up in the 15-20 after, 25 laps, you're like, oh, that guy's probably taking the stage. I think it's better to, have a shakeup and see what can happen. So I think it'll be hopefully fun and hopefully breathe new life into a track that's been kind of dead over the past few years.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it'll be interesting. Like you talked about Richmond, I think a lot of guys use that as a speed boost. Kind of say it's like what
Well,
Mario
didn't
Kart when you
Suarez
have the mushrooms.
Wasn't he a lap down and got back on?
I think that might have been the case. We'll see how the difference is this year with those, and we'll see if there's a fall off because
I think there will be.
You look at what IndyCar does for their road course races. You try to have their primary tire last long and be fine, and then the alternate tire there just have it fall off. Like you saw at St. Petersburg, you are only able to go 15 laps. I thought that was maybe a little too extreme, but we'll see if NASCAR kind of has to try that same thing, that it's fast until it's not.
Yeah.
I think if NASCAR can nail that, I think it would be great. That like we saw last year at the spring Bristol race, that was a great tire for that.
Yes.
I don't know if it was the best move to have that as the only tire. I do think it was still an interesting race and in a good race too, but I think optimally NASCAR wants to have a little bit harder tire than that, but still something close to that.
I think that's fair.
One last thing on Phoenix that I have to say is that the Xfinity Series does get my favorite race name of the year award that I've just made up for call 811.com every day, every dig, every time 200, which is the most convoluted name
Oh yeah.
to ever be put out there, and I can respect that. I think it's fun. Oh wow!
It always starts. So pick it up, and then it's already up. So just unmute.
All right, Ethan, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
All right, you're live. How are you?
Hi, Ethan.
How are you doing, Ethan? How's Kansas City?
Cold, and it was snowing. But Parker offered to go walk 15 minutes to go get pizza. So shout out Parker, great guy.
Wow.
Wow.
What a nice guy, Parker. What's up, Ethan?
Nothing much. How are y'all doing?
Fantastic.
We're doing great.
I'm doing amazing right now. You know what? I'm doing amazing.
What are we talking about on the show right now?
I was talking about the name of the Xfinity Series race.
I know you
What
love
is the
great.
name?
Like I just said, is the call 811.com every dig, every time 200.
Yeah, no, you see, that's too many words.
So that's
Just a wee bit.
We kind of, if you want to give your thoughts about how, I don't know if you watched either the Circuit of the Americas race or the St. Petersburg race. I know you're covering baseball, Ethan. Do you have any thoughts on those two races? What you would give them out of 10 or?
I didn't see enough of either to give a rating. I mean, I saw a solid 0 laps of the Cup race, and I was only able to watch the start of St. Petersburg. I will say for St. Pete, they got to find a way to stop crashing on the first lap. That would probably be ideal going forward, or just keep crashing on the first lap, and whatever they prefer, really.
I mean, it's a tradition at this point.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to stop them from doing something that's so ingrained in the sport at this point. But yeah, one would think that finding a way to stop crashing on the first lap would be ideal. If you want like actual analysis of the crash, just seemed like Siegel got unlucky. Like, was it Power that ran into him?
Yeah, it was
Whoever
Power.
ran into him just totally just ran into him. Nothing Siegel could do, and then Abel or Foster, whichever of the rookies, got caught up in it. That's just unfortunate for them.
Yeah, you missed me giving the chicken award to Austin Cindric for kind of right rear hooking Ty Dillon. I don't know if you saw the highlight from that. And then
I saw Ross Chastain go up the inside of turn 1, Andrew, because here's what's funny, Andrew, and
Oh,
everyone
boy.
else, really.
Here we go.
Andrew and I were talking about how last Tuesday about how Coda turn one breeds chaos. And he was so convinced that Chase Elliott would not get caught up in the chaos. And look what happened.
Tisk, tisk.
And then we also had the Chicken Award we already talked about that. Arca Breaks Moment of the Week for Fox is their cartoon caricature.
You see, I like the cartoon characters.
You're
I'm
in the
with Andrew on this
minority.
one.
You're more on my wave.
I understand I'm in the minority here, but I think, look, it's just the Fox Sports branding. They do it for football. They do it for baseball. It's just what they do. They're not going to do something different for NASCAR or IndyCar. And I understand that it works better for a sport like football, but they're not going to change it. And I think it looks cool. Like it adds it adds an element of like, yeah, these guys are, big characters that people should care about.
I think what it does, and it maybe it doesn't land on us as much because we're grown-ups, but it especially for kids trying to get into motorsport, and motorsports needs growth and in a fan base. It helps people get ingrained in the fan base potentially because there's these cartoon characters. They at least somewhat look like the actual individuals, and kids see that as cool, and they look heroic and cool and guys you'd like to follow and you can look up to. And I think that's that's
maybe.
fun.
That's a valid point.
I think that's why it's good.
Here's a way for them to improve it. I know some NASCAR drivers have certain celebrations. Joey Logano holding the steering wheel. I think they should do stuff like that. At least.
That would be cool.
Austin
that
Dillon
would
doing the dab. Let's
definitely
actually do something. If we're gonna have it so close to be like headshots, you have like, for instance, Scott McLaughlin. I talked about this earlier, Ethan. Staring into your soul. Just I don't want to see that. Like that's not his picture. If it was a picture, that would be one thing. But like you could have made it better.
So you're saying have him go all the way and just make it either over the top or just regular headshots.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair opinion to have.
That's fair.
Also, what you missed out on is Fox won the Morgan Trimmel I Hate You award for dumping all their money away from NASCAR into IndyCar and not splitting up as they rightfully should.
Well, I will say, yeah, the IndyCar presentation, production, whatever you want to call it, was amazing. It was awesome. But then you remember, like, oh, yeah, they could do this for NASCAR, too, if they wanted to. And that's honestly just disappointing. I understand IndyCar is the new shiny thing, but it's unfortunate for NASCAR, like, definitely unfortunate.
So, Ethan, with the awards, do you have any awards of yourself that you'd like to give out?
Not this week. I just wasn't able to watch enough racing, quite frankly.
And then quickly, we talked about how Fox had a huge rating increase for IndyCar, with St. Petersburg being the most watched IndyCar race on network television outside the Indy 500 in 14 years. And then also for IndyCar.
That doesn't surprise me.
And also, go ahead.
I feel like we always talk about how IndyCar just seemingly doesn't have a marketing department and like what would happen if they started marketing. Well, it finally happened. The commercials that they ran preseason with Palou and Pato and McLaughlin and whoever else, Newgarden, I think had one. Whoever had it, those commercials were all great. They brought in Will Buxton to be the lead commentary guy, and I think he did great. And I think that maybe some people tuned in just to see how he would do. Some F1 fans maybe. But I think it mostly came down to the marketing. They did a great job of marketing, something that they just literally hadn't done for years and years. They did it, and they didn't just do it; they excelled. So I think that that statistic that it was the most watched race outside of the Indy 500 in the last 14 years, I mean, yeah, that totally makes sense to me.
I love the tagline that they have about this is the fastest racing on earth, because that is a mega tagline pull where if you see that, you're going to want to watch that. These guys are the fastest. Let's watch that. That's going to be cool. And it is.
I think that's clear. I think that's the best thing, Fox has done. I wish they would do that type of marketing with NASCAR because it's made IndyCar look cool again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that just goes back to the production. Like, if they're doing this levels of production for IndyCar, they could do it for NASCAR. If they're doing these cool marketing strategies for IndyCar, they could definitely do it for NASCAR, but they're not, which that is what's disappointing.
Mm-hmm. And then we talked about how Connor Daly changed his number over the weekend due to the sponsorship of 76 Gas. And
yeah, I think that's cool. Like, it's a little it's peak capitalism, right? Like, his number is changing for the sponsorship, but it just works so perfectly that's just awesome.
Yeah. And it's not like a Jurassic. It's not something where you're like thrown off by it, which is the perfect level you want to hit.
And then and then finally, the other thing we talked about was Katherine Legge making her Cup debut at Live Fast for Live Fast at Phoenix.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it'll be interesting to see how she runs because she has experience in stock cars. She's obviously been fast at least over one lap. She's been fast at times in IndyCar at the 500. So she has oval experience, like obviously extremely different tracks, but she has experience. It's not like she's coming in to a complete unknown. So it'll be interesting to see how she runs. Like, I don't expect anything crazy for sure, but it's another storyline to pay attention to, which is always appreciated, I feel like.
And then with the Phoenix option tire, NASCAR bringing two different tire compounds. What are your expectations, Ethan?
I don't know.
That's the common theme here.
Hopefully improved racing, but like, who knows?
I think we all we're on somewhere on the spectrum of hope it's better to I think it'll be better, probably.
Yeah, like, I would sure hope so, but hard to say. I think at the very least it's gonna create some interesting strategies which will kind of artificially create some excitement, which I don't know. People have different takes on that sort of stuff, but I don't see a major issue with it. Like, yeah, manufacture some excitement. It's better than having zero excitement, I suppose. Like, I don't see a problem with it. It'll be an interesting experiment. If it makes the racing worse, which I honestly don't see. I think worst case scenario, it just is the same. But if it makes the racing worse, don't do it again. Don't do it again. It's that simple.
Yep.
Moving into pick points now.
Did you guys not talk about testing?
No, we didn't talk about F1 testing.
I have a bunch of stuff to talk about testing.
All right, we're talking about that next week, Andrew, when we preview Australia.
Okay.
I want to be there.
Morgan, you can be there if you want. All right. So, and going into pick points now.
And now for next week's race picks.
With last week, Ethan taking 2 points from the IndyCar series with the highest finishing driver Kyle Collette for next and Scott McLaughlin for the IndyCar series as a whole. Everyone, as I mentioned earlier, getting the winner right for Xfinity Series Connor Silage, and I got 1 point for Chase Elliott beating Shane Van Gisbergen. So that puts.
Who didn't have a bad COTA race.
He just
I just want to point out he did improve. Andrew, you didn't think he was going to improve.
Mm-hmm.
I said he would. He didn't improve enough, but he definitely did improve around that track.
He got a very unlucky release. He was released into that pack, and that car also
He didn't have
was
short
not
run speed.
was not starting
SVG?
very well
Mhm.
Yeah,
at
no,
all.
he didn't.
I mean,
Yeah, he didn't have short run speed for sure, but he did a lot better than he's done there in the past. It was a step in the right direction for him at that track.
So Ethan right now leading pick points, 24 for him, 17 for me, guess 15 points. So for this week, since we have 2 guests here, that means I would recommend making 2 different picks so that will use the highest finisher. So so to help the guests, because the guests were pretty far back last year in pick points. A ways off, like almost 100 points back. So that was a poor performance. With Xfinity, I am taking a guy who's ran well there in the past, won races there, was laps down at the championship race before going on to win the championship. Justin Allgaier is my pick.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick because, like you said, not only that he won, but the manner in which he won, pretty hard to go against him. I decided, though, to be contrarian, and I picked Alex Bowman, Cup Series driver, dropping down to Xfinity for this weekend. He'll run well. Like, will he win? That's the question, but he definitely has a shot. Definitely has a shot. Kind of just playing contrarian here, though. I love the Allgaier pick, but of course, I'm also going to be confident in a Cup Series driver at the caliber of Alex Bowman at a track that he does well at, dropping down to a lower series. I think that's a real good shot at a win for him there.
All right.
I got to go with Allgaier. You can't not bet against him. He ran so well in the spring there last year until he didn't. He shot himself in the foot, like you said, Andrew, countless times in the championship and still won. I think Allgaier's got it pretty well locked up.
I'm in 2 scenarios. I could sure us up and make sure the guests do not lose a point here, and I could go with Alex Bowman, or I could go with the risky pick, and I'm feeling Austin Hill for no particular reason.
That's fair.
And
Morgan, I fear you just wasted a pick.
So I think I'm gonna go with Alex Bowman and just be the safe face because I don't trust Austin Hill enough.
Okay. Welcome to the squad, Morgan.
Yeah, this is for the guests.
And then Cup Series, I'm going with the guy that I did not mention in my 5, a guy who has ran well in the past, just hasn't gotten the job done. No matter was in the Gen 6 car, now the Gen 7 car, he always runs well. Safe pick. Might not win the race, but I think he's a good bet to be top 5. Ryan Blaney.
Oh, it's a great pick.
Yeah. Great pick. I'm going with a guy who has won there in the past. Andrew, you probably included him in your 5 guys to watch, I would imagine.
You'd be right.
The reigning winner, Christopher Bell, who is on a great run of form, won 2 races in a row. He is looking to be the first driver to win 3 races in a row since Kyle Larson did it in 2021. He runs well there. He runs well there. He's on a great run of form. It's risky to say that he's going to win this race just because he's won the previous 2, and it's okay, eventually that's not going to happen again. But winning 3 races in a row isn't an absurd number. It hasn't happened since 2021, but it has happened plenty of times throughout the history of NASCAR. It's about time that streak ends, to be honest, and another driver does it. So yeah, why not Christopher Bell here at Phoenix?
I think I'm gonna go with Logano. I think he'll have a strong performance here. I think he's fast. He's fast to Phoenix. He's a good driver. It's just a safe pick, and I think he's gonna be bringing it, especially after his not so great performance at COTA, which to be fair was not unexpected necessarily. But I think he'll be looking to get after it. So I'm gonna go Logano.
I'll go a little unorthodox, and it's not fully unorthodox, but someone at least who hasn't mentioned, I think as a whole, the organization is going to run. I think Hendrick Motorsports is going to run well. They always seem to show up in the spring race. They're hit or miss in the fall, but they're always good in the spring. I'm feeling a William Byron win.
Okay.
So
I
guess
hate that.
yeah, that's a solid pick. So guess might not be gaining anything for Cup, guaranteed not to lose anything for Xfinity. So we'll see how that goes. Ethan, thank you for calling in. Morgan, Eric, if you guys want to plug your where the people of the world, where the few viewers of the Loose Wheel Show can find you at this point.
You can find me on Twitter at list_Eric, or you can go for Fuel for Thought on Twitter. My Instagram is just all lowercase Eric List.
You can find me on Twitter at Morgan Tremmel, capital M, capital T. And then you can find me on Instagram at Morgo_Trems7. I'm a little more active on Twitter nowadays, so I would follow that. I talk about racing a little bit on Instagram, but yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Ethan, do you have any final thoughts from Kansas City? I heard it's cold.
It is cold. Low weather update for any weather fans out there.
Ooh.
It is 33 degrees, but it feels like 9 degrees. There's
Nice.
insane winds right now. It's snowing.
Sounds like home.
If you follow me on Instagram, you can see Parker
just saw that
in a
post.
Hawaiian shirt flexing while it's snowing right outside of the airport. But yeah, it is cold here. I am very comfortable right now in the hotel room.
Little cozy boy.
Yeah, to Parker, who is walking outside right now, good luck.
All right. Thank you all for coming on through these
Yeah, thank you guys. It's
different
Yep.
different
Thank you so much.
circumstances. We will see you all next week when Ethan will be back in studio.
Peace.
Goodbye, all.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel.
The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked the fine time to leave me loose, wheel.